What really happened after the live screen was completely extinguished. Many ARMY thought the emotional moment was over as Jungkook smiled a little and Taehyung waved his last hand. But it is precisely there that a quieter, deeper, and much more touching story begins to unfold. A small, barely noticeable gesture triggered a huge question mark in the minds of observant fans. Why does the atmosphere feel different, as if there is a message that has not been completely delivered? A few minutes after the live ended, subtle changes began to be felt. Not through official announcements or large uploads, but through small details that usually go unnoticed. A short upload, an unusual choice of words, to a time lag that feels too long for mere coincidence. ARMY begins to connect these pieces, and slowly allegations emerge that Jungkook and Taehyung deliberately left an emotional trail that only those who were really paying attention could understand. Hint after hint leads to one thing. There is a tacit communication that is deliberately simple, but full of meaning. Jungkook's usually spontaneous way of expressing himself this time felt more restrained, while Taehyung, in his own way, seemed to answer without the need for direct words. This interaction is not splashy, it is not viral in seconds, but it is precisely what makes it feel real and touching. The reaction of the ARMY was not as usual. Instead of filling the timeline with enthusiastic shouts, many simply fell silent. Some admit to goosebumps, others feel their emotions suddenly drop for no apparent reason. There was warmth, but also bitterness, as if realizing that Jungkook and Taehyung's closeness doesn't always have to be shown with big gestures. Sometimes, the deepest honesty comes in silence. This moment again proves that their relationship often speaks outside the main spotlight. After the live, without cheers and without a stage, Jungkook and Taehyung seemed to remind that emotional bonding doesn't always need an explanation. And perhaps that's the reason why ARMY's reaction was so quiet, because there were feelings too deep to simply put into words. The silence, on the other hand, gave rise to even greater curiosity. Many soldiers began to wonder if this moment was deliberately left vague, so that only those who truly understand the dynamics of Jungkook and Taehyung can feel it. There is an impression that what happened after the live was not intended for everyone, but rather as a form of personal communication that just happened to be caught by the public eye. Some fans later realized the similarity of time, rhythm, even shades of emotions that arise from their respective small actions. As if there was an unspoken agreement, a way of mutually reinforcing without the need to announce. This is where the emotional shock is felt most strongly. There was no drama, no immediate recognition, but the impact actually lasted longer in the hearts of those who watched. ARMY, who initially just wanted to enjoy a relaxing live, suddenly felt involved in a more personal story. Many admitted that they replayed the live again, trying to catch expressions, intonations, or pauses that were previously taken for granted. Every detail now feels meaningful, as if Jungkook and Taehyung left a hidden message that can only be understood after everything is done, and the end. This silent moment is a reminder of why the two have always been able to touch fans' emotions without the need for excessive effort. After the live, no camera lights and no dramatic afterward, Jungkook and Taehyung actually gave the most honest surprise. And for ARMY, perhaps this is the kind of moment that makes the most impression, not because of what is seen, but because of what is felt. That it slowly turned into a battle between the armies. Not loud debates or excessive speculation, but sharing feelings that are difficult to explain. Many wrote that they didn't know exactly what happened, but were convinced that there was something genuine behind Jungkook and Taehyung's attitude that night. This vagueness is precisely what makes the moment feel human, far from a made-up impression. Some soldiers even admitted their emotions came too late. Not while the live is going on, but a few hours after it, when the atmosphere has calmed down and the mind begins to redigest everything that happened. There are those who feel touched for no reason. There are also those who suddenly miss BTS's togetherness as a whole. The emotional effect is like a slow wave that comes after a storm, not hitting hard, but enough to shake feelings. Unknowingly, Jungkook and Taehyung again show their strength in conveying feelings in the simplest way. No big statements, no clarifications, but that's exactly what makes ARMY feel valued. As if they were invited to feel, not just watch. And perhaps, therein lies the deepest meaning of this silent surprise. Until now, the moment after the live still leaves the question hanging. But for many armies, the answer no longer mattered so much. What remains is a warm feeling mixed with emotion, as well as the belief that behind the dark screen, there is a bond that remains lit. An emotional shock that wasn't noisy, but strong enough to keep armies silent long after it was all over, and perhaps precisely because it has never been explained so clearly, this moment feels more and more personal for each army. Each person captures its meaning in different ways, according to their feelings and experiences. Some see it as a form of mutual care, others feel it as a message of reinforcement in the midst of distance and busyness. The interpretations are diverse, but the emotions are similar: calm, warm, and a little heartbreaking. Interestingly, this shock did not trigger the usual momentary euphoria. There was no big trending explosion at the beginning, but the discussion lasted a long time. Day after day, the army still talks about it, as if the moment refuses to simply be forgotten. Each time it is discussed again, the feeling reappears, slowly but consistently, like an old wound that does not hurt, but still feels. After the live, many realized that Jungkook and Taehyung were not only present as idols, but as two individuals who understood the meaning of togetherness behind the spotlight. What they do secretly feels like a reminder that strong relationships don't always need to be proven with words. Sometimes, just the right presence and timing is enough that in the end, ARMY may never get a definitive answer as to what exactly happened after the live ended. But it is precisely that uncertainty that makes this moment special. It lives in a gray space between facts and feelings, between the visible and the perceived. And it was there that Jungkook and Taehyung again left an emotional trail that was quiet, but hard to ignore.